Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and just do a quick overview of the Sebenza Large 31 in Magnacut, which I recently got. Before I go on further, I just want to make a quick disclaimer here. I am very new to pocket knives, so I don't know squat. So I'm just going to basically give you a really quick overview and then kind of go from there. I'm going to just basically tell you why I bought it, my overall impressions, and my overall final thoughts. And yeah, go from there. So, well, okay, so I'm going to be honest. I actually bought this before. I bought the Sebenza Large before, and I always felt it just felt very awkward in my hands. Like, it's a little bit, like, it's okay, but it's a little awkward. But I bought it this time because it's in Magnacut, and, like, I felt like that's the X factor. That's like, oh, shit, it's in Magnacut now. But if I had to be really honest with you, I actually think that other knives fit much better. So, for example, the small Sebenza, which this is the non-Magnacut version, this is like a little bit smaller and thinner, as you can see, but this is a much more like easier carry. Like, it's just so much, like, I actually think this is a much better knife it's more versatile. Now, just for context, so for my hands, we're talking about 3 inches across. I always feel like, everyone's hands are different, but at least you have some kind of guideline. And the other thing I want to say too is, sometimes you'll read in forums where they'll say, the small is a little too small and the large is a little bit too large. So the medium is, there's another knife from another company called Quiet Carry, and they make, this is the Waypoint. And so the Waypoint is actually what they say is like the true medium. And I have to kind of agree with that. I mean, honestly, it is small, medium, large, and this knife is, a really good knife. It's just as capable, actually, in my opinion, as the Sebenza, and it's a lot cheaper. But what's cool about this knife is they've done tons of studies, and the material it's made out of, it'll never stain, which is actually a really cool selling point. And what actually I noticed was that when I would watch like a lot of knife reviewers, even though they never directly say it like flat out, like you'll watch and you just notice that like this knife is like in all their like top 5.
One of the best EDC knives of all time.
It's in my running for the best knife of 2020.
This might end up going into the house, but my Quiet Carry Waypoint does everything a bit better, I guess.
Fucking love it. I mean, the ergos for me, it just fits.
Probably in my top 5 favorite knives of all time, the Quiet Carry Waypoint.
They're like, oh, this is within my top 5. This is like one of my top 10. Or like, it's always there. And I'm like, that just tells me like, it doesn't matter who they are. Like that's a good knife. So yeah, that's my first impressions on that. But why did I buy this? Why did I go back and buy it? It's not just the Magnacut. The other reason was that I was looking for like a hard use sort of like knife that doesn't look like crap, because I found like a lot of them like Cold Steel and Buck and Gerber and like whatever. They all have like major drawbacks. Like Gerber makes good looking knives, but they are made out of cheap materials. Benchmade, in my opinion, I don't like their knives, like the way it's made, but they have good ergonomics. They have really good action. But I feel like a Benchmade is only good when you buy 2 Benchmades. Because basically what happens is like people buy a Benchmade, but then because it looks like a piece of shit, they buy scales for the Benchmade, which cost just as much as the Benchmade. So you're buying basically 2 Benchmades. I'm like, that's dumb. You know what I mean? And then the Cold Steels, I feel like they're super tactical. And then, like, what else is there? There's not a whole lot, and there's an Ontario Rat, too, and I'm just like, it just doesn't look that great. But this is the one knife where I'm like, it actually looks good from a point of design, and that's one of the reasons what really attracted me to it was that this was, not only does a lot of people say, like, this is a really great knife, but it actually is, it's actually, in general, like, it's really good looking. Like, I would look at it in pictures, and so that's what drew me to it, and that's why I bought it. But also, it's a hard-use knife that doesn't look like crap. Okay, so what are my overall thoughts? Well, right off the bat, I can tell you right off, like, what I did was I took off the pocket clip out of it because it actually was digging into my hand. But when you actually take off the pocket clip, it's actually okay. But what are my general thoughts even to this very day now that I think about it? I'm going to say, like, the small, I feel like it fits so much more natural. It just, for my hands, which are, I would say, more smaller hands. This is kind of like, it still fits okay, but I would say ergonomics on this is like, it's like average. It's not that great, but this is okay. This is pretty good. And the funny thing is the best knife actually is the cheapest knife here for me ergonomically, and it's the Civivi Altus. I wish I could have this blade on this knife. And that's it. It's like this knife is so ergonomic, so lightweight, so like this is the knife that fits perfectly for me. This fits pretty good. This doesn't. This feels like I'm holding a piece of metal. You know what I mean? Like it just it really does just feel like a piece of metal. But whereas this is just really like it just fits. It's just like really free form, so to say. Another selling point of why I decided to keep this knife or go for the large is that the locking system they have here, which is a standard frame lock, but this is actually one of the most secure out of all the knives that are out there. Because I'll be honest, like button knives, they kind of freak me out. Like I don't really trust the stability of these things long term. It's new technology that they came out with, which is really nice, but this is floppy. You know what I mean? This is sturdy. Like even when I want to lock this down, you really got to push down on it. You got to like, holy shit, like you really got to push down. Like, so for sure it's secure. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I notice people complain about it, but I actually don't think it's a bad thing, is like this is not a fidget knife. Like you can't like fidget, you really got to, you really got to slow roll it and whatever. But I think that's good for safety. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on the knife so far. So yeah, that's all I have to say.